The man who had no one. The wind blew gently across the small railway station, stirring dust and memories alike. Mohammed Mushtaq sat on an old wooden bench, cane in hand, watching people rush by. He wasn't in a hurry. He hadn't been for years. A widower of 5 years, Mushtaq had grown used to silence. His wife, Anisa, had died after 40 years of marriage, and his grown children had long flown the nest, busy with their own lives in cities far away. Once a proud farmer, he now lived in a small village house, alone with memories and the crackle of a dusty radio playing old tunes. Today, he had come to the city to collect some forgotten paperwork. Now, he waited for the afternoon train to take him back to his empty home. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. As he sipped lukewarm tea from a chipped clay cup, his eyes caught a strange sight. A woman, perhaps in her mid-50s, stood near the far end of the platform. She wore a modest, faded white dupatta draped over her head, and in her hands was a small bag, the kind someone carries when they believe they won't be gone long. She wasn't crying. She wasn't speaking. She simply stood there, lost, uncertain, and painfully alone. Mushtaq kept watching. After some time, she slowly walked over and sat on the bench beside him, her body language stiff, cautious. A silence stretched between them like an invisible wall. "Assalamu alaikum," Mushtaq finally said, voice soft and respectful. She flinched slightly, then turned her face toward him. Her eyes were tired, red-rimmed. "Wa alaikum assalam," she replied quietly. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked gently. She hesitated, then nodded. "I was." "What happened?" She exhaled slowly. "I was supposed to be picked up today. A man, a proposal. He was going to marry me. Said he'd send his nephew to bring me here." Her voice wavered. "But no one came." Mushtaq looked at her carefully now. The lines on her face told a story. One of resilience. One of heartbreak. "I'm sorry," he said after a pause. "That's cruel." She smiled faintly, bitterly. Cruelty is the only thing age never forgets to give a woman. He was silent again. The bustle of the station continued around them, hawkers shouting, children laughing, porters wheeling luggage, but between them it was still. "What's your name?" he asked. "Rubina." "Where will you go now, Rubina G?" She shrugged. "Wherever fate takes me. I left home behind. There's no one left to return to." Mushtaq looked up at the sky for a moment, as if seeking some divine sign. Then he made a decision. A quiet, clear, and honest decision. "If you don't mind," he said, "come with me." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "I live alone. My wife passed away. My sons have their own lives. There's space in my house. And maybe in my heart, too." Her eyes welled up, not with sadness, but disbelief. "You'd take a stranger home? A woman people think is too old to marry." Mushtaq smiled. "You're not too old. You're just right on time." She covered her mouth, too overwhelmed to speak. The train horn echoed across the platform. Mushtaq slowly stood, picked up her bag without asking, and extended his hand. Rubina stared at it. Then, slowly, she placed her hand in his. They boarded the train, two strangers, bound by fate. Chapter 2. The wedding no one expected. The journey back was quiet. Rubina sat by the window, watching fields blur into green smudges. Mushtaq sat beside her, thinking about Anisa, his late wife, and what she might say if she saw him now. He smiled softly, knowing Anisa's kind heart would have approved. By evening, they reached Mushtaq's village. A few curious eyes followed them as they walked through the dusty path to his house. Rubina, nervous and unsure, kept her eyes low. But Mushtaq's calm demeanor gave her a strange comfort. His house was simple: 2 rooms, a small kitchen, a courtyard with a neem tree in the center. He showed her around with gentle courtesy, not touching her, not assuming anything. She noticed that. "Stay here tonight," he said. "You can rest, and in the morning, if you still want to leave, I won't stop you." Rubina nodded. That night, she sat beneath the neem tree, watching stars scatter across the sky. For the first time in many years, she felt something she had forgotten: safety. The next morning, Mushtaq made breakfast: tea, flatbread, and scrambled eggs. He placed it before her and said, "Rubina ji, I've never believed in coincidence. Maybe this was written. But the choice is yours. If you feel even the smallest peace in your heart about staying, then I'd like to ask for your hand." Tears spilled down Rubina's cheeks. She had waited her entire life for someone to ask her, not as a burden, not as a compromise, but as a partner. And so, under the shade of the neem tree, in the presence of 2 neighbors and a local imam, they were married. No fanfare, no flowers, just vows and sincerity. The village gossiped, of course. They whispered about the old widow and the too old bride. But soon, the whispers turned into smiles. People saw Rubina sweeping the courtyard, laughing with children, sitting beside Mushtaq in the evenings. They saw joy return to a house once heavy with silence. Years later, when Mushtaq passed away peacefully in his sleep, Rubina sat by his grave with hands raised in prayer, whispering, "You gave me a home when I had none, and love when I thought I was forgotten. May Allah grant you peace, my dearest."